The Chosen, where we discuss the hit TV series The Chosen, which is a fictional account, yet that in many respects it's true to the Bible, and a show of Jesus and his early disciples. And so I think that at least I've been blessed by it. And I was talking with a friend of mine here today, and that he's planning on watching it soon. And tonight's episode, and all of these episodes are really good. Some kind of maybe resonate a little bit more with me than others, but I really liked tonight's episode for a lot of reasons, and hopefully that you've had an opportunity to watch it. We're discussing the invitations of Series 1, Episode 7. And so I have some guests here with me tonight, including my wife, who has been game enough to show up on camera after driving 3 hours to get home from visiting our daughter in the San Diego area. So Janice, welcome. We stuffed down a pizza real quick.
Right.
So,
slow trip.
So if we have some indigestion here this evening, you'll know what to expect. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'll bring the guests on in just a minute. I'm going to have our little intro, and then following that, our guest will appear on screen. Hello, guys. It's good to see you all here this evening. There's Val, and we know who Val is because he's the only man in the group. And then going clockwise from the upper left-hand corner is Sarah, then Nikki, and then Val and Lorene. And so thank you for joining us tonight. So, hey, let me just ask you real quick, and anybody who wants to can jump in and share your thoughts. But tell me what you thought of this particular episode of The Chosen. Anybody? Crickets. You liked it? Mm-hmm. All righty. Anything in particular that you liked?
I liked Jesus' interaction with Nicodemus.
Yeah, that's good. Mm. So I also like the woman at the well. Is she in tonight's? No, that's next week. Oh, I have to.
I missed that part.
Oops. No, I have to tell you guys what happened. Is that I got everything mapped out for tonight. I watched the episode and prepared all the questions and got them uploaded, and did all of that stuff. And then I thought, this doesn't seem right. And what it was is that it's next week's episode that I watched. So I had to,
of course,
get everything else set up for tonight. So
I can't hear.
You can't hear? Oh yeah, here you go. So, hey, would you mind going and getting me some migraine medicine all of a sudden?
Oh, no.
Can you believe it?
No.
I know. And I'm gonna try to muscle through this as long as I can. But if not, Janice may have to take over. No, I mean, I know why these happen to me, at least at one level, and a lot of it has to deal with screen time. I had a major project. I do some work for the University of California, and I had a major project that was due yesterday for that, and so I was working until about 9 o'clock or so on the computer from all day yesterday, and then including last night. And when I spend that much time in front of the screen, it sometimes catches up to me. And tonight it's done that right during a broadcast. So great. And so your faces are all melting away as I talk. So, one of the things that I might do, which is a little bit weird, is that I'm going to put on some sunglasses. and that can help a little bit. So let me just yell at Janice real quick. One moment. Okay, so I'm back. All right.
Harry,
Well, yeah.
one of the things I really liked, and I know it's acting, but I
Mm-hmm.
love how the actor who portrays Jesus, how he's always like delighted. Like he's not this grumpy, serious,
Yeah.
everything's serious. He finds like the humor. And one thing I really noticed is all of their teeth are way too white for, for that day and age. I'm like, those teeth are way too white.
Yeah.
But
Certainly.
you just
They
see it
must
in
they must
Jesus.
be millennials.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
of course,
How am I looking now?
meeting sharp.
Cool.
Need need a harmonica and do some little blues music here.
You're ruthless.
Now,
Go
I
ahead.
was going to say that, of course, the meeting with Nicodemus and Jesus was probably the highlight of the show. But boy, those little ones at the end that catch you with Matthew and Jesus,
Yeah.
where he was,
Yeah.
that was just something just to see those little interactions between those two,
Yeah.
and then Matthew following. So that was
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. That was incredible. It's really a precious scene, and and I realize, and we know that yeah, these characters are they're actors portraying real people. And so we don't know the true nature and temperament and personality of each one of these guys. But I mean, the life circumstance of Matthew, that he was a tax collector, and he was a tax collector in the town where Simon and Andrew and James and John had a lot of familiarity, and so he was probably not a very popular guy in that town. And all of a sudden, he's in the group with the rest of them.
Like,
And,
really?
Yeah.
and Simon saying, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Crazy. You know. So let's go ahead and we'll jump in and we'll go through these questions if I can see what I'm doing here. So um, if it just gets too bad, I may just have to bail out, but I'm okay for now.
Want me to read?
Yeah, why don't you read the question, please?
Okay. This episode begins with a depiction of the time when Moses crafted the bronze snake during Israel's wilderness wanderings. It's a strange instance. See Numbers 21, 4 through 9. How does this foreshadow the cross? Jesus references this event in his conversation with Nicodemus. See John 3, 14 and 15.
Yeah, we could look up those passages later. We're not necessarily going to do that right now. But that's weird, isn't it? I mean, when you started this episode, did you were you kind of scratching your head or what?
Yeah, I was.
I was.
You know, but and these guys, they're really good at what they do, and they're able to weave in a lot of these subtleties that are we could call them Easter eggs. These subtleties that are surprising moments, and particularly as you grow in your understanding of the scriptures and all. But there is, of course, a parallel. There's a parallel between what Moses is doing in the wilderness. And somebody just give us a quick recap of that. What was that about? Do you remember?
The people were complaining that they had been delivered from Egypt, and they were complaining about everything.
Yeah.
And then God sent the snakes in and bit them all.
Yeah.
And you know, Joshua was coming to Moses saying, "What are we going to do? What we got to do
Mm-hmm.
something. The people are sick." And
Mm-hmm.
Moses heard from God and made the cross and the snake,
Yeah.
and said the people just needed to have faith when they looked at it to believe,
Yeah.
and that they would be healed.
There's a great line in the opening because I watched it again today. You know, after I watched next week's episode. But there's a great line in the opening where Moses says that if anybody gets sick and dies, it's because they want to, or they didn't take the solution. They didn't accept the solution that God provided. You know, and there's a parallel between the danger, the lethality. That's a word, right? That
Just go with it.
yeah, just go with it. Okay, but the I'm going to say the lethality of sin, and God has provided the solution for us in the person of Christ in His work on the cross. And if anybody just continues to go on in that path, that it's not because God didn't.
And he was talking to
enough.
Nicodemus, who would understand the whole
Yes.
Moses reference and be able to kind of see what he was talking about then, because he's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to see if we got any comments coming in.
I'm watching right here.
You're watching? Oh, there's a bunch of them right here. You have one here that says
That's a long time ago.
that's a long time ago. Okay, sorry. You can.
I'm
click,
keeping you up to date.
You can click on those comments as they
Okay.
happen. Okay, so let's go ahead to question number 2, and Janice, if you don't mind, if you can do that again right here. Hang on, it's coming up. It's not there yet. So, all right, there we go.
There were stirrings within Nicodemus that there was something different about Jesus, something consequential. So he began compiling his research. Why is it that it takes some people a long time to sort through what they really think about Jesus?
Yeah. Well, I know in my life that I didn't come eagerly or easily into faith. And it took me quite some time to kind of sort through all of that stuff for myself. And so, and I don't know, I mean, obviously we don't know what was the case with Nicodemus, but how about the rest of you guys? What do you think?
Well, Nicodemus, he was just open to asking Jesus questions about the kingdom of God, and other people's hearts were just kind of hardened, and like Shmuel, they both saw the same miracle.
Yeah.
And Nicodemus saw it one way, and Shmuel saw it another way, and because his heart was so hardened. But Nicodemus was just so open to asking questions, so it was easier for him.
There's a good lesson in that people are always complaining that we don't have evidence enough, but maybe we should at least embrace what evidence God does give us, and have an open heart and mind to that. So, anybody else who'd like to add on to that?
I know somebody personally in my life that has been taught about Jesus, is surrounded by friends, and I think wondering, is unwilling to maybe give up things. She thinks she's going to have to give up things.
Yeah.
And it's not a decision.
Yeah. So, I don't know if you were done. You were kind of breaking up there for a second, but yeah, Kathleen has a comment. Where is it, Janice? Oh, right here. Right here?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead. Read it.
Oh, Kathleen says, haven't been raised in the word, seems too good to be true, or they don't want to repent.
Yeah. I mean, sin does get a grip on our souls, and anybody who says otherwise is just not being honest. I mean, Jesus himself says anyone who commits sin is a slave to sin. And so I think that there's a large part of us, and particularly as we've gone into I know it was the case in my life. Okay, I know that I didn't want it to be true because I liked doing what I was doing, you know. And but in the case of Nicodemus, obviously, that he had a lot on the line. You know, if he was going to follow Jesus, that you know.
Well, even the disciples that were so far following him and had seen the miracles and stuff, they still had some doubts and questions and all that.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And I know like some people that they have to have all of the answers clear before they'll take something. And I think that's why the cults work so well, because the cults will answer every single question for you. You don't even have to think. They'll answer every question. And Jesus, well, at one point he told Nicodemus, mysteries aren't easy for the scholar.
Yeah.
So when something's mysterious, that takes like faith, more faith. And some people, they just want it all. They want it all answered in ABC answers.
Yeah. And they're going to have a hard time following Jesus if they want a bunch of answers for everything, because he doesn't give them.
You know, I like that comment, Lorene, that you know, that's one of the things that the cults supply, is that they supply kind of like a pre-packaged answer for all of your questions, and if you don't if you don't accept that answer, then you're out of the group. And they have, and the power of that is that the social ostracization, something like that, is that it's very powerful. It keeps you bound in that whole system. So all right, let's move on to the next question.
One down.
Yeah, okay.
That's two.
All right, that's one right there. There it is. Go ahead.
When Mary Magdalene speaks about the Pharisee Nicodemus, she says that he is earnest and that there's a hunger in his eyes. What role does humility play in learning more about God and deepening a relationship with him? How might our office or influence get in the way of that? What's the difference between humility and gullibility?
Okay. Talk about humility and its role in
Learning more about God.
In learning more about God. Anybody?
Well,
I'll tell you. Okay, you first, and then me. Go ahead.
Sarah was talking about how Nicodemus came to him. He was willing to say, or willing to admit, he didn't know everything and wanted answers. And I mean, and Jesus referred to him as a man in his advanced years. So he had a long time. And I think it took a lot for him to look at this younger man and just be in wonder and, wow, you're really teaching me things.
Yeah.
He had to have a lot of ability to do that, instead of, you ask what gullibility is. People that are gullible just believe without research. Whatever you tell them, they believe.
Yeah.
It's like he was really seeking him.
Yeah. I know for myself, I've always been academically inclined, and in a lot of ways, academics has come easy to me, and I know that when I met some folks that began sharing the gospel with me, is that part of the problem is I thought I was a whole lot smarter than they were. And that can get in your way. And particularly for people who are smarter. I've been around some people who are skeptics, who are highly intelligent, and they don't, it's kind of like a resistance to listening to somebody that isn't in their league, Fortunately, for the gospel's sake, I've known some extraordinarily intelligent Christians, and I just marvel, at the degree of their sophistication. And so I'm grateful that God has provided those types of folks in the kingdom But by the same token, we don't all get to talk with the smartest of the smart. And so when we're a skeptic and we feel that we're smarter than the people that are teaching us,
Well, Nicodemus really had to humble himself because he was the, the authority on God's word.
He didn't get in the position that he was at as a member of the Sanhedrin, which was essentially a member of the Jewish Supreme Court. He didn't get, he was a leading Pharisee. And he didn't get in that position by being a slacker. Obviously.
Even like when they were going to, well, they were listening through the window and stuff when Jesus was, when the guy got let down through the roof, I can't remember for sure, but, and that Shamil guy walked in first and he goes, "Do you know who you're talking to?" Like, like we demand respect,
Yeah. It's one of the big problems with religious people is that they demand respect. And they bristle sometimes when it's not given to them. So, okay. So let's move on to the next question. Okay, I know I can find it. There we go. All right, Janice, my reader.
In this episode, Matthew finds himself questioning what he was previously certain about. What was Matthew certain about? Why does an authentic encounter with Christ tend to upend the way that we've been looking at life?
Okay, what was Matthew certain about?
Numbers.
Yeah. But what else? Because certainly he was certain about numbers, but what else? Think about his situation in life or his circumstance in life, because there's a lot of people that are certain about
what he needed, like money.
Yeah, he was certain. Matthew was certain that money was going to bring him what he wanted out of life, because he essentially sold out everything to get it. He was a man obviously of considerable talent, because I suspect that there are tax collectors that got that position just because of influence, but they probably didn't retain that position because of influence, because Rome has little toleration for mistakes. But Matthew was a guy who sold out everything to get what he thought would bring him in the best life, and he got that, and it didn't deliver for him.
There's a comment right here.
Go ahead. Can you click on
Let's click on it.
Click on the blue part. There you go.
This is from Joyce. He was rich and self-sufficient.
Yeah.
And it was almost like, it was so funny. It was kind of ironic how I think Matthew just believed in what he could see with his eyes. And when he started seeing things he didn't think possible with his own eyes, he started questioning that logic of, oh, this is different than what I can see with my own eyes. This is beyond that. And I think maybe that's what began to spark his interest in what was going on. He couldn't believe it himself, and he saw it.
Yeah. There's a wonderful passage in the Gospel of John, and it's after Jesus is resurrected, and he appears to Thomas, and that he invites Thomas to touch his wounds and to put his hand in his side, and all. But then he says, "Blessed are you," because Thomas has this profound reaction to that, and he says, "My Lord and my God." And so Jesus says, "Blessed are you because you've seen and believed." He says, "But blessed are those who have not seen and yet believed." And that's us, not everybody gets the types of miracles. Well, very few people got the type of miracles that Thomas got, and yet I'm grateful that God, I truly am grateful that God has brought me to the place of faith, even though it's not always easy for me to be in that space of trusting, you know. So, anybody else on that question? Nope. Okay, let's move on.
Well, I would like to say something that they added into it was how the
Okay.
mom was responding to him. The mom
Yeah.
said that about you, and he kind of just stood there. They were saying that, you were demonstrating things that nobody could explain when you were
Mm-hmm.
young.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was good how they put that
Yeah.
in there, and looking at him, he was so confused. And
Yeah. How? What? What? Let's assume that they were still alive. We don't know if that was the case, but let's assume that they were still alive when Matthew became a tax collector. What type of toll would that take on the parents?
they would be stunned, probably.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
would reject what their son was doing. And
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be
I'd
difficult.
be talking about him.
Yeah. You know.
I was a little surprised at the mom, as Matthew's mom, because the moms have their kids in their hearts. And
Yeah.
I was surprised how harsh she was with him. That she didn't,
Yeah.
even though you saw it when he left, but she was just so harsh. I don't know. As a mom, I would be telling my kid, well, I would be telling
Yeah.
my kid I loved him, even though I know all the history that happened. But I was just a little surprised at her response to him as a
Oh,
mom.
come on, Lorene. You grew up in the church, and I'm sure that there were plenty of instances that you saw where some kids went astray, and their parents kind of like cut them off, and
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. When our son was going through his hard time, it
Mm-hmm.
it, it I that was a hard thing to show him how much I loved him still, even
Yeah.
though this was a tragedy and it just was a mess. Everything became a mess.
Yeah.
But I still we just tried to go overboard in telling him how much we loved him, not condoning anything he did, and
Sure.
being strict on that side of things. But I
Mm-hmm.
remember sitting on his bed just crying with him, because
Yeah.
I wanted him to know I still loved him so very much.
Yeah. You're a good mom. So
Kathleen says she was surprised at Matthew's mom too.
yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
You know, there's a lot of pressure on those guys, not just from the fact that their kid essentially. I mean, if we kind of couch it in the terms, and even in our culture today, it's not like a big thing, but her son was not just a tax collector. Her son was a traitor to Israel,
I know.
and
True.
so there's for instance, and I'm not saying in every case that this is warranted, but I oftentimes think about the parents of children who commit horrendous crimes,
Yeah.
and no matter what you do, I mean, the kid is responsible for their choices. There's always going to be a large element of people that think that you in some way failed your child, and so you cannot have that type of problem in your family without picking up the stink yourself.
And maybe she was hoping that if she just showed him how awful it was, that he would quit, or it would change his heart or something.
Yeah.
Not that I think that works, but
Yeah. Spoiler alert, but I really like at least as far as they pursue it, the reconciliation that kind of gets played out in that family, and that's one of the wonderful things about coming to know the Lord is that oftentimes, obviously, there are times when it creates chaos in families. It did in my family of origin. I could tell you some stories, but but then there was reconciliation for Matthew and his parents, and even in my situation there was reconciliation, and so I was grateful for that. But all right, so next up, I'm sorry, what?
Oh, no.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
When Jesus leaves Simon's house, he touches the door frame, then kisses his hand. What's that about? Here's some background and a website. While Christians are not bound by Jewish practices, what value do you see in a custom like this? What might be the downside of a custom like this?
Okay, let me give you a little bit of background on this. Some of you know about it, but what was on the door frame of their houses is a little box that's called a mezuzah, and that's what the word means. It's in Hebrew, I believe, for box. And inside that box, there's two passages of scripture from the book of Deuteronomy, and it talks about put these on the and teach these commands to your children and write them on the door frames, of your house, and so on and so forth. And so what they did is that they would have these little parchments that they would roll up and put inside the mezuzah and then tack it on the door there. And so whenever in the protocol, and actually you see, without getting too nitpicky, but you see some of the actors kind of get a little bit confused with this. But the protocol of that in the Jewish culture is that you touch the box first, and then you touch your lips. And so it's like you're taking in the blessing from that. In some scenes, you see them touch their lips, and then they'll touch the box, type of thing. But like that really doesn't matter. But the point is that these in that box was two important passages of scripture that to the Jewish believer, and that so what's the value? Obviously, as Christians, we're not bound by traditions, but what's the value of having some traditions, with respect to your life of faith?
From what I understand, it wasn't like the Bible. I don't think the Bible ever says that you're supposed to do that and have it on your door. Mm-hmm. Everyone should have one on their door, and that they should always, accept the blessing from that box. Mm-hmm. I don't think that that's like in the Bible. Yeah. Like that's a command. Mm-hmm. But I understand the tradition. I kind of like it because it's a reminder, every time you go in and out the door, it's a reminder of those values and those verses, God's word. And then I could see the downside is that it doesn't mean anything after a while.
Yeah. I know for me, when I'm leaving the house, that sometimes it takes about 4 or 5 times before I can actually leave the house. So I'd be touching that box a lot. Obviously, there's the only two kind of like ceremonies, if you will, of Christianity. One is baptism, and the other one is the Lord's Supper. But how about in your families? Are there any things that you routinely do that are traditions around your home? I guess religious or spiritual traditions around your home. How about for us?
I think someone else should answer.
Okay, someone else should answer. That's what Jana says. So. Any for you guys?
I mean, going to church on Sunday.
Yeah.
I mean, when we, growing up, you went to church when the doors were open.
Yep.
And it was Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday meetings. We just did it. We didn't even ever question the why ever. And I remember my dad one time broke his leg, and my mom had to do something, and he had to take care of us. And boy, did we get to do things we never did before. It was so much fun. I remember one time we went and got something at Save-Ons or something during some meeting, and I was like, "We're not at church. We're out with Dad." It was just good. I know for me, as a longtime Christian, communion has been a discipline for me because I have taken so much communion, and it's an essential part of my life. But I have to work really hard at keeping a focus. It's just a few minutes on Sunday, and it's just a few, but it takes. It's a conscious effort for me every single time to remember what it's for.
Yeah.
So that's mine.
Or I was gonna say, even like praying before a meal.
There you go.
It's just something you do, and it's become to where you just do it because you want to eat, and you're not even really thinking about. I'm really thankful for this food. It's just something that you just do.
Right.
Yeah.
Good one, Sarah. Good one.
Yeah.
That is a good one.
Yeah, it is. So go ahead.
They showed praying, and I like when he just puts his head down on the ground and he just says simple little things like, "God who brings sleep to my eyes," or something like that. I just love how he just includes them in just the simplest of things.
Yeah.
It makes me think that I really should do that more often. Just every part of my life. Just, it doesn't have to be complicated or
Right.
just,
Yeah. I've been doing this a long time. I've been a pastor since 1976. And before that time, we went to Bible college and all of that jazz. But, and I've been giving it a lot of thought lately. And I think that it's really dangerous for ministers as far as maintaining a vibrant relationship with God. Because I think that the danger for ministers, and I've seen this a lot, is that it becomes more about the ministry than the man. So in other words, I got to grow the church, or I got to, I got to serve this. I got to, create this program. I have to. And then there's also a lot of Christians, they spend, a lot of ministers spend a lot of time studying and getting very nuanced in their theology. And I think that that's important. I really think that that's important. But I think that it's dangerous because that's exactly what happened to the religious leaders of Jesus's day. They became so familiar with religion that they lost connection with God.
And the people.
Yeah, and so I think that a real danger, because most ministers, now I know that there are those shady characters, okay? Speaking of shades.
I wasn't going to say nothing.
But I know that there are those shady characters that has given Christianity a bad name, and pastors a bad name. But most of the ones that I know have been very passionate about Christian service. But I think that's the danger, is that we get really passionate about Christian service and not about connecting with Christ. And I've been trying to do that lately. I know I preach about this and stuff like that, but it doesn't mean I'm doing it well. I'm just trying to do it better. Is that I'm really trying to circle back and just really spend time connecting with God in prayer, not asking him for stuff. Now, I do ask him for stuff, but spending time, like Nikki said, how that Jesus has this awareness of God in the simple moments of his life. And I want that to be, it's hard for me. I'll tell you right now, it's hard for me. And I want that to be more of what my life's about and less about, being driven in Christian service. Although I love it, I really do. I really do love Christian service. But I need to love God more, So,
Carrie, I just
yeah.
want to say thing. I have noticed in you a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't even put my finger on it exactly what it is, but I noticed that you're doing things a little bit different now.
Well, good. Thank you. I want to just keep on going. Just think about it. Now, I know that we have a hard time believing this, but our greatest delight in heaven will be the presence of God. Now it'd be nice to see my friends and family that have gone on before me. But when we're in the presence of God, that will be our highest joy in heaven. Yeah.
I just keep thinking, I hope that, like when we see Jesus, it's going to be like how they portray it, like he not only gives him a big hug, but he kind of rubbed his head. Like, I want Jesus to do that to me.
I cried when he did that.
I know, me too.
Tender.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
When was that? What moment? When was that moment?
It was either with Nicodemus or Matthew. Which one was it?
With Nicodemus at the end of the station when they were hugging.
Yeah. When he knelt down and then he had him stand up and he gave him a hug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool.
And touching back on the dangerous, that was the part where right at the beginning, Nicodemus was really worried about Jesus's preaching and going out there, and so I think I lost my thought there with that scene there where he was.
Your train of thought derailed. Walk back through the door, you'll get it again.
My cat walked in.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go on to number two. Number two.
We're going backward.
Number 6. Janice?
The creators of this episode have Jesus saying that he did not come to deliver the people from taxation and oppression, but from sin and spiritual death. Why is spiritual renewal more important than political reform? What tends to get more attention from people in the world and why?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Politics, certainly. And we have that expectation that somehow politics is going to usher, and that's really the popular deception in our culture. We have that expectation that politics somehow is going to usher in what we are seeking for in society. And I do believe that there are political systems that are worse than others. I've been to Cambodia. I've seen firsthand what communism does to a country, But, and so, yeah, I understand political systems, but that's not the solution.
This is such a question for now. I mean, really, this is what
Yep.
we need: spiritual renewal. But what we're focused on is the political reform more. And I have to even remind myself. Like, no matter who we vote for and what we do, it's God who's going to be in control of. He already knows who's going to be the next president. He already knows how all this is going to happen. I need to stop trying to figure it out and just trust in him and
Yeah. Here's a statement here that says political reform has to do with what others can do for us. And spiritual reform has to do with what we need to with what we need to do.
Gallivan.
That's Jan Gallivan, yeah. So and that's hard. I hate the social decay that I see in our culture. It saddens me a lot, and there's been a lot of times I've been very depressed about it. And so but I know that the only way that we can see meaningful change is for people's lives to be transformed by the gospel, so at a large scale, so okay. Number 7, Janice, please.
Again, in this episode, Jesus is portrayed as extending the invitation to Nicodemus to follow him. While the scriptures do not say that these words were exchanged this way, why, however, is it so difficult for someone like Nicodemus to become a disciple of Christ?
What do you think?
Me and Nikki were talking about that, and Nicodemus, but he was giving up everything to follow him. That's just for a person of his stature of and just
he was
give
a
up
man of
everything.
influence.
Yeah, he would have lost everything.
Yeah.
Even probably his wife. I mean, how would she get accustomed to that lifestyle and not having the money?
Yeah, exactly.
Left?
Try coming home and saying,
You're like, I'm going to live with the kids.
Yeah, what's her name in the episode? I can't remember now.
I don't remember.
But even who is it? Is it the praetor that he comes into their house? Yeah, Quintus. Is it? It's not too bad, we get comfortable, So yeah. So and he's no spring chicken. So going out and camping. He's
like, well, where are we going?
Camping with Jesus. Yeah. Try selling your wife on that one. No.
We're just gonna travel. So.
So, all right. Just a couple more here tonight. Just how radical was it for Jesus to call Matthew as a disciple? How would this pose a problem for the other disciples?
Well, we saw we saw Simon react right away.
Yeah.
Say, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
They hated him.
Excuse me.
They hated him.
And I don't think that's when I began giving it some thought, I don't think that's too far off the mark.
No, because he made their life miserable.
Yeah. And all of a sudden you expect for us
Here's your brother, your new brother, welcome him in.
to to be buddies.
Yep.
you know, you know.
Tough sell.
Yeah, it was a tough sell. So.
And they probably thought it made them look bad too, to
Yeah.
see everybody with a
Yeah.
tax collector.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. That's a good observation. Once again, you know, you can't hang out with people like that without picking up some of the stink.
Well, and Jesus,
You know.
I mean, he is even, he's questioned about why is he meeting with tax collectors and all those kind of people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, okay, finally. So, Matthew lost a lot. He lost a lot by following Jesus. What did Matthew gain by following Jesus that he did not find anywhere else?
There's a
Acceptance.
couple comments.
Okay. All right, say it again.
Except
Yeah. Acceptance. Is that Matthew gained acceptance from
That he
Jesus?
didn't find anywhere else from anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because even the
Even
Romans
his
had
own mom
contempt
and
for him.
dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know.
On the last comment, where did I get used to it? Oh, Jan Gelman said, I love Jesus's remark, get used to different.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Yeah.
And Kathleen said that I think Jesus made lots of radical decisions in his selections, even of the disciples, but he didn't have to answer to anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I've known a lot of pastors, and I've been one myself. And a lot of times, what gets played into our decision making is what's expedient, you know, and or at least it gets considered. And I would hope that I've been able to steer out of that ditch, but there's probably too many times I haven't, you know, and so sometimes you feel the pressure, but Jesus didn't. Jesus was like pressure immune. You know, and that, he's kind of like, I don't need you guys to approve of what I'm doing. You know, I know I'm right. so
How wonderful to be free of that.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
not caring what anyone else thinks. You just, that's
Yeah.
freedom to me.
And there's kind of a sense of kind of like being a social misfit in doing that, but Jesus wasn't. He wasn't a social misfit. He was the quintessential example of a healthy human being. Nobody who's walked the face of the earth had it more put together than Jesus.
Yeah.
You know, and that. So he wasn't doing it like, well, in your face. He's just like, you know, I'm not driven by this. I'm not driven by public opinion. So Matthew lost a lot by following Jesus. What did Matthew gain? How about for you? What are some of the losses and gains that you have experienced?
I know I chose from, you know, when I was really young, because I was raised in the church, but, you know, to not party and try drugs or drink or anything like that, you know. And people would say that that would be something that maybe I gave up or I lost or something. But I have never missed it ever, because, you know, Christians have fun. They really do. They don't even have to be drunk to have fun, you know. And, you know.
I remember puking my guts out. That wasn't fun.
Right?
You know?
I didn't know him then.
Yeah. I once told Janice this, is that if I knew you when I was growing up, I would have never picked you. And she said, and I would have never picked you.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, that's funny. So, so losses and gains. How about for the rest of you guys? Anything?
There's some coming up here.
I felt loss. I feel like I've gained a joy that is just sometimes unexplainable.
Yeah.
But I felt maybe I'm doing something wrong if I haven't felt a loss yet.
Yeah. I know for myself, and I have to, when I first became a Christian, I have to admit, I was weird, a lot weirder than I am now, even. But I kind of like decided to jump in with both feet, and the problem is that I didn't know how to do that well, and so I was just really an obnoxious believer, and kind of a compulsive witnesser, and and things like that. And so I understand that a lot of people were turned off by it, but there was a crowd that I ran with that they stopped calling me, and so I lost all my friends, and there was a lot of disruption in my family initially about that, and so there was a lot of that, also, my whole goal in life is that my whole goal in life when I was young was to grow up and be an artist. That's all I wanted to be, and how crazy is that? I grew up and became a preacher, but it's not like I've lost. I have plenty of opportunities to use my artistic abilities and talents in the ministry, and I still seek that out. But I said this a while back, is that I'm glad that there's heaven because and I said I hope that I'll be an artist in heaven, and where you have plenty of time to indulge your interests, And so,
Lorene, do you remember what I told you I wanted to be in heaven?
Yes.
Now you can't throw it out there like that and then just leave it.
Yeah, now you have to.
Hey,
I said, when I go to heaven, I want to be a dancer for God. And she's like, what? Because we never could dance when we were young, and I just think dancing is such a expression of joy, and I didn't mean like a pole dancer.
Please. I'm going to throw up this comment here right now. Disclaimer. Oops, we lost Lorene. What happened here? So, oh man, we lost her connection. So,
Uh-oh.
and Lorene, if you're out there, dial back in. So, okay. Something happened. All right. There she is. Okay. One moment. There you are. So,
Hey.
Well, you're back.
it was, it was Janice's pole dancer. Her pole dancer comment that threw you off.
Shocked you right off.
Yeah. All right.
what happens? Discussion stays on the chosen.
Yeah. The problem is that we're live streaming this. So.
I told Carrie when he asked me to marry him, I said, well, you're going to be a pastor. I really don't think I'm pastor's wife material, so you get what you get.
Yeah, really. She has a junior hires mentality in a lot of things.
I do.
So. Hey guys, thanks for joining us tonight, and I'm going to go ahead and wrap this thing up because we are out of time. And so, but thank you guys for joining in, and I just and give me a minute, and I'm going to close this out. So, once again, there I am. Okay, let's get over just a minute, please. So once again, I appreciate you joining us tonight for our Discuss the Chosen Bible study. And we do this every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific time. And so we will be doing it next week. And of course, the reason for my cool look tonight is that I just all of a sudden got a migraine and everything went south from there. So, I appreciate your comments and I appreciate you watching. And I just trust that you have been blessed by it. And I got some remark here that says, pray you feel better. And thanks for sticking with it tonight. And thank you. I do feel better. And so, taking the medicine right away always is, my secret weapon in trying to beat this thing. So I'm going to sign off, and we will have a chance to connect next time around. And of course, you can join us on Sundays if you want to catch our live stream on Sundays at 10 a.m. Pacific time on these same channels. So talk to you later. Bye-bye.